Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Sports Talk Philadelphia here on LaSalle TV. Today we're going to talk about the Eagles and the biggest game of the season so far. And when we come back, we're going to discuss some Sixers and their outlook for the winter time frame. All that and much more when we come back.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What?
Oh, this you crazy mother.
And welcome back to Sports Talk Philadelphia alongside Jake Copestick, Gia Lancey, and Dave Roberts. I am your host, Josh Abrams, and today we are here to talk some Eagles. Let's get right into it, guys. This is arguably the biggest week of the season. We are going into Dallas this weekend on the Sunday primetime game at 4:25. Let's take a quick look at the recap of the Eagles game from this past week. On Monday night, we hosted the Redskins and we beat them 28-13. It was shaky from about the beginning of the game to, let's say, the second half, about the third quarter. And then the Eagles finally picked it up, scored some touchdowns late in the fourth quarter, and were able to seal it with some first downs. Let's get the general reactions from you guys. How are we feeling? We're 6-6, only one game behind Dallas. How's everyone feeling?
I think it was a good win for the Birds, but they have to realize this is like this next game, this is the big one. I mean, they played very well. Adrian Peterson had the 90-yard touchdown, but then outside of that, he only had 8 yards on his other 8 carries. So they played very well against the run. I mean, Mark Sanchez came in. You don't really need a stellar defense to shut him down. But, I mean, they had 14 points in the fourth quarter. They closed it out nice. Thought it was a very good win for the Eagles.
Yeah, I think the offense looked decent. Definitely a lot of things they need to work on. The defense looked good, but it's hard to tell when you're playing Mark Sanchez.
That's a good point.
Yeah, the butt fumble isn't. He's not good. He's not
Didn't that happen again?
He did. He caught the ball under his butt again, and I was like, wow, part 2. That's great. So he can't escape that ever in life, pretty much.
But Dave, your general thoughts.
I was at the game. That was like the first actual football, actual in-season game I've been to, and it was fun. There's some things you can see up there that you're like, why didn't you do that? Clearly, obviously, but it's different when you watch it on TV too. But yeah, we looked all right, and that's as much as I can say because the Redskins weren't really first seed in the NFC East Redskins that we know of from before. So I mean, it was an okay game, but I feel like we definitely had to pick it up 20 times more for this week.
Yeah, I'm thinking perhaps we played the Redskins at one of the most perfect times. We've had to wait 13 weeks in the regular season to play them, and sure enough, it took them, it cost them at least 2 left tackles, or 2 tackles rather, a quarterback. Some of their defensive players got banged up, and their defense, especially in their secondary, is not very good despite having Josh Norman and DJ Swearinger, guys like that back there. But nevertheless, it was just really good to see the Eagles put up 28 points in a game, and as much as we would like to see them put more up, I think it was just promising to see that the connections between Carson and Zach Ertz, Alshon, and now with the emergence of Golden Tate this past Monday, I think that's going to give us a lot of confidence going into Sunday. What do you guys think?
I think we got something out of Golden Tate that we've been waiting to see since we even signed him. So I feel like it's only going to go up from here. Of course, it might be a little rocky because we're going to Dallas, but I feel like we might actually see a really good game out of them this week.
Yeah, I mean, I like that they finally got Golden Tate involved. He only had, a couple of catches, maybe even 3 or 4 just coming into this game. So it was nice to see him get involved, and who knows, maybe he can play a real big part for them coming down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm kind of nervous for this game. It's really a big game. I wish Jordan Hicks wasn't hurt. I think that would make me feel a lot better. He is leading the team in total tackles and assists. And since the D-line has stepped up, I think it won't put as much pressure on him, and he would be able to make those big plays, but I think he's going to be out this game. So
yeah, it doesn't look too promising for him right now, but I'm glad you brought that up, Gia, because we got to talk about the leaders of this team. and what all they've done for us so far. So you bring up Jordan Hicks on defense, that's a given. But let's look at the running game, which has actually surprisingly started to pick up. The emergence of the local guy, Josh Adams, I think it was the Jacksonville game where he really started to blossom. But, even against the Saints, who right now have the best rush defense in the NFL, he looked really good. He scored a touchdown, the only touchdown. And then Zach Ertz. I mean, you cannot talk about the Eagles without talking about him. He's already surpassed the Eagles' single-season record in receptions with 93, and he's just on pace. He's on pace to have arguably the best season for a tight end ever. Looking at those leaders, and don't also forget about Michael Bennett. I almost did. Ever since he's been on the team, he's led the team in sacks, and while it's at a very small number at about 6.5, 7, he's still making a huge impact on the defensive line. So out of all of these leaders, who are you guys highlighting just from personal preferences?
I think it has to be Zach Ertz. He's on pace not only to have, you said arguably the best season, like the best season. He's on pace to break Jason Witten's record. The last time they played the Cowboys, I know that they lost, but he had 14 receptions and I believe 2 touchdowns. So he's played such a huge role for them, and this is like an all-time pace he's on. And it's just it's really good to be able to watch it. Before we move on to
you guys, Jake, I'm glad you brought up Jason Witten, because I thought Jason Witten was actually playing in that game with the amount of times that they mentioned him. When Nate Jerry gets his first career interception and they have the audacity to talk about something else other than that, I think that was just horrible broadcasting on their part. Yeah. But nevertheless, talk about your guys' shining stars so far.
I definitely think Josh Adams. I've been asking them to run the ball. I've been yelling at the TV. Finally, Doug heard me. And Josh Adams looks amazing. These past few games, the run game has been what gotten us there. You know what I mean? So I think Josh Adams and Darren Sproles are really going to be the game changer for this Cowboys game.
You guys said, Ertz having a great season, of course. Adams coming up, really stepping up for the running game this year. I'm going to have to talk about Bennett because I just love defense. Barnett goes down with an injury, so the next man up mentality, we always talked about it being on the Eagles, but Bennett has been the one that actually show that he is the next man up and actually putting pressure on the line. And you could see it too with the one penalty he had in the Vikings game where it was a really poor roughing the passer, but that's the type of stuff that I actually expect to see happen in not the penalty itself, but those type of plays. So, he's going to keep continuing to play well. He's going to be the leader that's besides Fletcher Cox. He's going to be the type of leader that shows by example about what we need to do. So he's really come up for us.
And I'm really glad that move is starting to pay huge dividends, and hopefully through these last 4 games, he can keep doing so. And let's actually talk about those last 4 games. So it's really worth noting that 3 of our next 4 games are on the road. And when you take into consideration our next 3 games, it doesn't really make it much easier. Now, you look at the Dallas game, it's not really a make or break game. However, looking at the Rams the next week in Los Angeles and hosting what I would say is the hottest team in football in the Houston Texans, it just isn't going to get easier, and I don't think we can be satisfied with just a win over Dallas. We're going to have to do just a lot more than that.
Yeah, they're probably going to have to win out to win the division, ultimately make the playoffs, but it's going to be hard. It's 3 division leaders they got to go up against. Dallas is playing well. The Rams have one of the better records in the National Football League, and then you have the Texans as well, who after starting out 0-3 have ripped off 9 straight, and I don't know if anyone saw that coming. No.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to say that the Rams are going to be a loss, absolutely, and the Texans are not going to be easy either. So I'm nervous. That's all I have to say.
I hope the football gods are on our side, like they were last year. The Rams are definitely tough. We've seen what top running backs have done to our defense just with the run game. And Todd Gurley is playing like he could actually want to be the MVP of the league, and that's going to be tough. And the Texans, I don't know how on paper, the beginning of the season, they looked like the perfect team, and then they went 0-3, and everyone just shut them out. And then now they've won 9 straight, and it's it's going to be tough.
Yeah,
it's going to be
and
rough.
it's interesting because as much as I want to believe that we can beat the Texans, especially since we're home, they're on a 9-game winning streak, and while their strength of schedule may not be the strongest, it's just the fact that Bill O'Brien is leading them to wins, and he's proven to have done that more than almost a lot of other coaches in the NFL. I guess before we end Eagles talk here, let's be bold. Are we making the playoffs?
I got to be honest with you. I don't think they can, and I think this is the game that will define the season for them. If they lose on Sunday to the Cowboys, then it's over. But even if they win, they're not out of the woods yet. They still got to play, at the Rams. They got to play home against the Texans. So it doesn't mean they're getting in the playoffs if they win on Sunday, but I do think it means that they'll miss the playoffs if they lose.
I'm really superstitious, so I'm gonna say no. But I also have a lot of confidence in them, and I think if the injured players that are injured right now, like Jordan Hicks especially, I don't think Jalen Mills is going to come back, but anybody to help out in the defense will help immensely, but I don't think that they will.
I don't care because we won the Super Bowl and we're the Super Bowl champs until February. So
you're one of those fans.
I am one of those. We're the Super Bowl champs until someone takes our crown. That's all I have to say.
Well, look, I mean, I don't think nobody expected us to be 6-6 through 12 games. Okay, I mean, we knew how tough our schedule was, especially in the second half of the season. But there are 2 games on that schedule that really we should be 8 or I guess in this case, 8-4 right now. Carolina and Tennessee are just 2 of the biggest heartbreakers, and it's not like things were going their way. We made it go their way. It was just one of those things, and it's just going to be interesting to see what Doug does in these last 4 weeks to really get the team going. And I think that's going to wrap it up for Eagles talk. We're going to go to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk Sixers. Tell me you didn't watch the Phillies game last night.
Unfortunately I did, and it was just so heartbreaking to see the first 8 batters strike out.
Claude Giroux hasn't done anything for this organization.
I'm confused. You're doing an internship in sort of marketing and production, right?
I really can't believe that Ben Simmons won't be dropping threes on the court this year.
Hey, Tanya, I know you're really busy, but could you tell me who the Sixers play on October 28th? Doctor, in order for the Eagles to win this week, they're going to need 250 passing yards from Carson Wentz. We're going to need 100 yards rushing. I don't care who it is. We're going to need a lot of good production from our tight end and wide receivers. And I'm going to need 5 interceptions from Malcolm Jenkins. Yeah, Mom, look, I know the money situation isn't good right now, but I promise you Travis Konechny's going to have a breakout year.
Hey, I had to climb to the top of Mount Everest to find Nick Pavetta's ERA.
Sports Talk Philadelphia. We talk nothing but sports all the time.
And welcome back from the commercial break. The same group is with me to talk the Sixers. And, it's been an amazing Sixers season so far in terms of the offensive production we're getting. We have the best home record in the league. I don't really think that was too surprising. However, the fact that we've only lost 1 game at home against the worst team in basketball, in the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think that may be a little bit more shocking in a bittersweet kind of way. I guess the best way to start off this Sixers talk is to talk about the most recent game. There weren't many games between this show and the last show. So the most recent game that they played was in Toronto, who is arguably, or not really arguably, I keep on saying that. They're the best team in basketball by far. They're 21-5 now with that win. I think it was about an 11-point win over the Sixers. We were in it, and we were actually leading for most of the first half, and then Toronto started to crawl their way back, and eventually they took the lead for good in the fourth quarter when we were only down 1 heading in, and they eventually took the game. I want your guys' general reaction, I guess, from that game and how it builds the team for later games.
Well, I mean, it's a good thing that this isn't the playoffs because Embiid had an off night, Simmons had an off night scoring, and I mean, Toronto, they just threw a whole bunch of guys at Embiid. They have Serge Ibaka, they have Jonas Valanciunas that they can throw on Embiid to defend him, but it was just an off night, and outside of Jimmy Butler with 38 and J.J. Redick with 25, you really didn't have anybody else that carried the load scoring-wise.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Joel Embiid just has a really hard time going against these competitive teams, and that's a shame when that was who we played last night. And I think that Jimmy Butler really was the only thing that we had going for us, and I really just think the Sixers need a better bench.
Yeah, I think that goes without question.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that was always the main thing with me, though. I think because we saw that we have like a good starting lineup, but we didn't have anyone that could come in and just like be a six man or even be like just someone who could just help out the six man when he goes out there. So I mean, of course, I think at some point we're gonna get a player that can actually start, and then we can have Wilson Chandler come off the bench or Muscala come off the bench, so they can actually be the bench players they're supposed to be, and not these starters that keep getting thrown in there.
yeah, I mean, I like TJ McConnell. I think he's really energetic and plays good defense, but he doesn't always take shots when he has the opportunity, and that's his.
I think, yeah, no, I see what you're saying, G. I think a lot of people love TJ McConnell, and when he's turning the ball over like the way he did yesterday, that's just kind of the icing on the cake, in my opinion. You look at the season leader so far. It's obviously been Embiid. We just kind of trash talked him a little bit with good reason, though. But nevertheless, he's still putting up about 26, 27 points a game, leading the team in scoring, rebounding, and blocks. He's obviously been our defensive presence, and he's been our presence inside on offense and defense. We talk about MVP talk with Embiid. I don't know if it's really there anymore after last night, Dave.
I think last night just proves that good players have bad games against, some solid teams sometimes. But I wouldn't take him out of the MVP race. I think I'm saying that as a Sixers fan. But even as a fan of the NBA, it's just you look at it and you have to realize that, all right, Embiid had an off night, but you know he's the type of player to bounce back in a big way. So I'm not worried. I still think he's going to get the votes that he's going to get. But it's just on him now to realize that he needs to step up more for his team. Even though it shouldn't be like that, he should step up more in big situations like that when everyone else around you is either struggling or having a really good game like Jimmy Butler did.
Yeah, and I think he knows that because he even said it yesterday. And he only had 10 points last night. But I think that we're going to have a big game upcoming from him because he knows that he has to step up.
Yeah, I agree with both of them. I think he's going to bounce back in a big way. But my thing with Embiid is he doesn't shoot that well from three. Now, he can knock them down. He doesn't do it at the consistency that he would like to, I think. But I think that's a place where he has to get better. But even still, he's such a force inside. I'd be cool if he stopped shooting threes and was just posting up because he bullies people inside and gets a lot of his points that way.
Seriously, the amount of threes that he missed and that I watched him miss last night was very irritating because – you look at Toronto's lineup, Jonas Valanciunas comes off the bench. So Embiid's going to start off the game getting guarded by either Serge Ibaka or Pascal Siakam. And while those two are very promising defensive players, we know how good Ibaka's been his whole career. Embiid's got the size advantage all day and every day. So I want to see him get in the post. But let's also talk about the other season leaders on the team. Ben Simmons leads the team in assists. That was sort of a given the type of role that he plays. And then Jimmy Butler coming onto the team. He's in his, 11th? He played his 11th game yesterday, and he leads the team in steals, going along with about 5 assists and 18 points. He's literally won us games, and he's also kept us in games like last night. So just, I guess, talk about those guys and, what you like seeing from them.
Yeah, I think he was a really big leader last night. He, pulled people aside, told them what they were doing wrong. Obviously had the most points yesterday, and I just think he's a really good addition to this team.
The Headband Brothers. That's what I love. I really like that they're actually coming together, and Jimmy Butler's taking him under his wing and trying to teach. Brett Brown said defensively. I kind of want to see it offensively too. Maybe help his shot out. Stuff like that. Maybe help him just develop more of an offensive game where he can be more dangerous. But these two guys, I think, are actually. They could be something special when they learn how to work together and when they actually last night it was a little off. Everyone didn't really have a lot of turnovers. I think if you have half the turnovers you did last night, it's going to be a better game than what you had.
Yeah, I agree, but I mean, I do like that Jimmy Butler and Ben Simmons both had 10 rebounds last night. Simmons was only 2 points short of a triple-double, and I mean, they're gonna get better as they keep playing with each other. But I love Jimmy Butler coming in. He was a leader right off the bat. I know a lot of people say that he was a bad teammate or whatnot, but I think he's done nothing but good things for the Sixers, and it's only going to get better from here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't know where any skepticism came in about Butler, maybe like you said about the locker room situation, but it's all situational at this point. I think it was just toxic in Minnesota because they have two young stars in Wiggins and Towns who, really if you look at it, came from big time college schools, Kentucky and Kansas. So I think maybe the potential in their eyes was just looking like way too much. Now, even though, go ahead, Dave.
I was just thinking, because I'm glad at this point that we could, just with Jimmy Butler coming in, I think it's great that we can have someone that could shoot the three in like really crunch times. Like that's what we were missing, because we can't rely on JJ to do it every time. We can't rely on Embiid to get at the top of the key and shoot the ball. So I think it's really great that Jimmy Butler can come in here. At least like we don't know what's happening in the locker room, but it looks really good right now. And at least he's getting along with everyone to the point where like Brett Brown looks at him and is like, all right, you're shooting the ball right now at the end of the game, and he gets it done.
Yeah, and the last thing before we move on to talk about Markelle Fultz, I do want to mention that we did play in Toronto. Toronto's the best team in the league. I find it very questionable that Toronto only committed 12 personal fouls. I know how good of a defensive team they are, especially their starting lineup, and how good their bench is, but I don't see how a team commits 12 personal fouls in 48 minutes of basketball. Like, that just doesn't happen. But let's talk about Markelle Fultz, guys. We finally know what he has. I don't say it. Go ahead.
Neurogenic thoracic outlet syndrome.
Okay. So it took about 10 specialists for someone. The 10th specialist finally figured it out, which is good. That's awesome. Where do we go from here? Because I don't know what the rehab's going to be like. I don't know what the process of him recovering is going to be like. Do we want to continue to deal with this, or do we want to just ship him off?
I'm done with him. I think his confidence is going to go down the drain, and it already was. So there's just no way he's going to come back from this with this team. I think he has a chance to go to another team, have a fresh start, and do something there, but not with the Sixers.
I think just injury-wise with our team, I don't know what we can do. Because you saw the Embiid project, it took like 3 years. Like I don't know if you can do that with a guy like Markelle Fultz. I feel like he has to do it somewhere else.
And the situation, like I said, it's all situational because Embiid was dealing with the foot injury. Yeah. And we know Embiid wasn't able to really like rehab all that much because you can't run, you can't jog, you can't get back in shape with a bad foot. Right? So, I mean, this shoulder situation is just so weird. It's so questionable because not many players really deal with it. I think I saw something on Twitter today where Landry Fields dealt with the same exact thing. He hit, I think, almost 93s on 40% shooting his rookie year, and he drops off. He only hits 3 in his next 3 NBA seasons. So, Jake, what do you think?
I mean, I wanted Markelle Fultz going for a while now, but now that he has a diagnosis and we know what's wrong with him, I think I see a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'd like for them to keep him around. But I think the most important thing is for the Sixers to just tell Fultz, take as much time as you need. I get that he's wasted a lot of their time, but if they really want to get the most out of him, let him rehab, let him do whatever he has to do, because I think he can be a good player for him. So let him get back to 100%. And then bring him aboard and see what he can do.
Does it give you guys closure at least, knowing that we know what's actually wrong with him?
Yes and no. It's kind of like I said at the beginning of the show, I blame Brian Colangelo because I feel like that was a very Brian Colangelo move to just kind of like, I feel like he knew and didn't say anything, and just like I think he knew that there was something wrong with him from the jump, and he didn't say anything, swept it under the rug. So if it wasn't for him, maybe we could have caught it from the beginning. Like we could have just been on it very early from the even last season.
But he was such a stud at Washington. Like
yeah.
I don't know where this comes from randomly.
I still think it's from the rumor that he got in the motorcycle accident because I don't really feel. I feel like there's no other way that unless like it was like a Landry Fields thing where it just something happened. But
yeah.
Like there's 2 options, and I feel like it's a very Colangelo thing just to sweep it on the rug, not tell anybody, and just
yeah. I see what you're saying, Dave. So we're going to move on to Fast 5. We're going to wrap up Sixers talk. Jake, we're going to come to you. Who's the NBA MVP so far?
I got to go with Giannis. He is tearing it up right now, and he's got, 27 points per game. He's got 13 boards, 6 assists, shooting almost 58% from the field. The Bucks are second in the East. He's playing off the charts right now. He's only 24 years old, so he's only going to get better. But the way that, if you take Giannis off that Bucks team, they're completely different. So I have to go with Giannis Antetokounmpo right now.
That's understandable. Gia, we're going to come to you. Darren Sproles finally returned to action, and he scored a touchdown. What's your general reaction from seeing that?
I'm so happy Sproles is back. I love him. I loved him always, and especially now. I think he just brought a spark to the offense, and that touchdown was awesome. Mighty Mouse is back. And he's actually reliable on the run, and he can give Adams a break when he needs it. So I'm all for the run game.
That's awesome, and that's going to be huge for Adams. Dave, Georgia didn't make it to the college football playoff. You want to say something about just the overall system?
Yeah, the old system, everyone was complaining about it. They're like, all right, they're picking and choosing where people go to win championships, and there's a lot of teams deserving to be in a championship game. So they switch up the whole thing. All right, top 4 teams go in, and they have a playoff system. And people are still mad. They're like, all right, Georgia played really well, and they played probably better teams than maybe Notre Dame, so how come they didn't go in? So I feel like no matter what's going to happen, no matter what system you have, people aren't going to like what's going to happen. And I feel like we, as football fans, we might just have to deal with it until maybe someone else figures out a new system 20, 30 years down the line.
Jay, we're going to come to you with another Eagles question. So Camus Grugier-Hill, now one of the starting linebackers for the Eagles, talking that smack on Dallas, saying that they're going to choke and that they're going to make them choke. How do you feel about that?
I think it was a really bold comment to make from a player who's not that bold, and from a team that we can't really be saying these things right now. I just think he should have kept quiet, and I think the fans already have a lot to say about Dallas and stuff. So
yeah,
all I have to say is Dallas sucks. But that's fine.
Jake, last but not least, who wins the Heisman?
I have to go with Kyler Murray. Over 4,000 yards, 51 touchdowns combined, 7 interceptions, and he's led Oklahoma. They have one of the worst defenses in the entire nation, and he got them to the 4th seed in the playoffs, so I have to go with Kyler Murray.
I don't think I can disagree with you there. Before we wrap it up, we just wanted to pay tribute to a beloved Eagle of ours. Derek Barnett this past week lost his older brother David in a drunk driving vehicular accident at around 3:25 in the morning. We found out from the University of Tennessee, and we're just praying for Derek and his family with that, as well as a speedy recovery. But that's going to wrap it up for Sports Talk Philly this week. You can catch us on social media on Twitter, Facebook, at lasalle.edu/LaSalleTV. We hope you all enjoy your weekend. We're going to hope for a big Eagles victory. Everyone enjoy your Christmas and New Year's. We'll see you next semester.